Hello everyone, welcome back. This is episode 160 of Coach Quip. I'm Coach Robyn.
I'm Coach Chris.
And today we're talking about something super timely that most of you listening can probably relate to right now.
Yeah, what is it?
Post-race blues. They're real. And I think that a lot of times they happen and we don't know that everyone else is feeling the same way, but we are here to tell you they're real. They happen, and we've got some tips on how to be able to move through them. We're not saying put them to the side. That's not really kind of the point. Races matter. They're big, giant goals, similar to like when you have like a big event, like a wedding or a big party, and then you get really sad after. It is exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that I feel this a lot with vacations. Like you plan a vacation, and then you're so excited in the lead up to it. You do the vacation, and then it's like, oh, now what? Like, you could have had the best vacation, and then even after that, you're a little bit rattled, or your whole schedule or what you're focusing on is different, right? So you're anticipating something, and then it happens. Then what, right? It really doesn't matter if you met your goals or didn't meet your goals.
Which I think is so interesting, because I think sometimes people feel even less. They feel more surprised that they have some type of a blues when they didn't meet it. But it's like, no, you were still chasing it.
Yeah. And even if you did accomplish your goal, you can still feel badly afterwards, which I think is also a shock to people.
Yeah.
Like, no, I did accomplish my goal. I did everything I wanted to do. Why do I feel so down right now? So, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Really, the physical and emotional toll of a marathon leaves people so depleted that I think it's common for people to get sick afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Your immune system is down. It's also super common to feel these sort of emotional fluctuations that are sort of related to post-race blues.
Yeah. And it does not help that we are not at the changing of the time either, right? I mean, our mornings are dark AF. This morning was very, very dark.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting more spooky season and cozy and like, yay, we can turn a fireplace on, but it is very much linked to seasonal depression and just having less available daylight, not being outside as much. All of that combined with this loss of a goal, it can absolutely set you up for being a little blue right now.
Yeah, so that's a great point too. The seasonal depression, I wonder if marathoners who race in the fall or the winter experience post-race blues at a greater level than our early season racers.
I would think so. We one time did a big event right before Thanksgiving, and that was actually low-key. We did not do this on purpose, genius, but we did race and then plan for like a mini vacation after. This is why racecations are also genius.
Yeah.
And then we ended up doing like a alternative Thanksgiving with family out there. And we still are like, that was the best ever. But I think it's because we got to kind of ride the high. We probably crashed afterwards a long time ago. I don't remember. But I think that was the only way to kind of circumvent the fall.
Yeah. Well, that's a good tip. We're going to get to that tip. But before we get to that, let's talk about the symptoms of post-race blues. How will you know if you have the post-race blues? All right, so first up is feeling emotionally flat or depressed, like just straight away. If you know what depression feels like for you and you feel it, you might have the post-race blues.
Yeah, there's not having the same sparks right, as you did before.
That's a good way to put it.
A big one that we hear, especially for people who aren't plugged into a community, of just having this complete lack of motivation to kind of move and exercise, especially run or do the sport that you raced. Just feeling very disconnected to it and not really wanting to get out there when that's very not normal for you.
Yeah, that's super common because the training plan for folks to do a marathon is pretty intense and it's very structured. So there is always that desire to be like, I'm free, I'm just going to do whatever I want.
I'm going to eat all those hamburgers.
Right. But if you can't dig yourself out of that, that's when it becomes a problem. Another one is feeling physically drained or unusually tired. So, if you just ran a marathon, of course it's common to feel exhausted for a couple of days. But if you find that after a week you're still feeling super tired or unable to get out of bed, that's probably leaning a little more post-race blues.
Next up is sort of rides on that as well, which is just irritability or restlessness, just everything, things that shouldn't kind of tick you off, and then just not being able to get settled. Maybe you're not sleeping well, maybe you're waking up from 1 to 3 a.m. Wait, just me?
Wait a second.
Just me?
When was the last time I raced? Do I still have post-race blues?
Right.
I'm irritable. I'm cranky.
No, those are just two coaches post-marathon. then the last one's going to be just like that loss of structure and purpose after intense training. It's so funny because when we're in the middle of it, it's not that we're like resentful of it, but we tend to feel at times, especially as we approach peak, very trapped by it, or like everything is defined by this one thing. But then once it's gone, we're like, wait, what? Right? So, really feeling that you don't have that sense of purpose, and you don't have, you're not putting your eggs in a basket. They're all just kind of laying about.
Yeah. Well, the good news is there are strategies to sort of dig yourself out of this that also can lead to really exciting and new ways for you to feel strong and empowered and great in your body. So we're going to go through some of our tips for dealing with post-race blues. All right, first tip to overcoming the post-race blues is to acknowledge your achievement. I think this is really important because whether you hit your goal or not, there has to be something within your race experience that you can reflect on and celebrate. Even if that is, I showed up, right? I made it to the starting line. Reliving the moment of the positive parts of the race, if you had a bad race, trying to find those positive parts of the race can really help you create some balance about how your experience was. If you had a great day, then celebrate your great day and write down all the things that were great about it. But sharing that sort of story with the friends and family and community can help you get some perspective on your race. And I think that especially in social groups like here at Edge, we're going to hear a lot of people talking about their race experiences. And it is soothing to be in community like that, sharing those things.
Yeah, it is.
It can help you find different highlights and perspectives to share.
Yeah, good, bad, or ugly, right? And I think I really like, we're filming this 2 days after the marathon, but yesterday was the day after the Marathon Monday, and I really enjoy being at Edge for the day and talking with people. Obviously when it went well, that's one thing, but I see even more purpose of when it didn't, because they're able to not complain about the day, but like you said, put it into perspective and realize even how the hard parts were extraordinary. And I think that, once the kind of raw edges go away, they can really start to understand what exactly they did do, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Other ways that you can acknowledge your achievement is to get yourself a little prize.
A little race prize.
Little race prize. But I think that can be really motivating and inspiring for future efforts. And, we always want to encourage you to celebrate, especially if it was a big one, if it was a personal best, if it was a first at a distance, if it was one that you've really wanted to check off or you've been looking forward to for a long time. We've talked about this in the past, but I got a suit after one of my Ironman races that I really wanted to commemorate. And every time that I see that suit or wear that suit, I feel, like the joy and accomplishment of having completed that race.
What did you put on the inside again?
First.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And similarly, we got cowboy boots, right? So not only was I very fixated on, I do not like country music. Nobody send me country music. But I do like cowboy boots. Yep. It's fashion. And that definitely kept me interested for the training season, but then it was the thing that I was like really excited about post-race. And It's nice to have that tangible thing too, to know what you accomplished. Every donkey needs a carrot.
Exactly.
All right, next up is to definitely rest and recover, especially if this was the end of your season, but also stay active. Like, I promise you, it's fine to stay on your couch for a day, but after that, please don't melt into it. All right, don't let the pugs convince you to stay there the whole time. Your body needs time to recover, right? So you're going to give it the proper time. I mean, right? Most tapers for half and full races are from 2 to 3 weeks, so it's okay to kind of give yourself that time as well. But we also need to keep moving on some level, so it can be gentle, right? Gentle moving is great. So anything non-weight bearing that is like swimming or cycling. If you want to throw in something that adds a little bit more stretch, right? Yoga, or of course we have our mobility classes at Edge on Tuesdays and Fridays and possibly Sundays again in the future. That is going to be a great way to just get some blood moving and not feel completely like a potato. Because again, we can be good on the couch, but when you go past that threshold, you start to feel bad again.
Yeah, if you're looking for some tips on how to incorporate that active recovery in, check out the episode about our reverse taper, which will be about 50 episodes ago, more or less. It was about this time last year that we talked about this. And that's a strategy for you coming off of your big race, how to ease back into your training. All right, next up is to set new goals. So having something to look forward to helps us stay motivated. It is anybody who has ever tried to train without a goal in mind knows how hard this is to stay consistent.
It doesn't work. You have to have a goal.
Nope.
It doesn't have to be a big scary goal, but it has to be
something. Yeah. So you can set mini goals. You could set totally different goals outside of running. Just set a goal. So it can be a new fitness challenge. We have our Edge Games coming up, so that would be a great opportunity for people to set new goals, targeting some of those movements or that event.
Yep.
But we've had in the past, I know we've had pull-up challenges here that people have sort of started, or push-ups, just setting a goal, whether it's about a movement or about a sport or a new activity, even if it is still running a different distance or running on trails, just any little carrot to dangle in front of your face to keep you motivated.
I think it's helpful to think about these as lowercase g's.
Oh yeah,
right, right, versus like the big giant probably all caps G that you just did for the goal you just completed. Yeah. It is really, really nice to have lowercase g's in your ecosystem. For me, I am a big make a list every single morning. I make a list even on the weekend of the things that I want to get done. Granted, not everything always gets done on my list, but it makes me feel very, very good to cross things off and think of these things like something along those lines, something that you can work toward that it's just more approachable, it's more fun, it's lighter, that you can find some satisfaction in crossing off. Next up is to diversify your training, like all the stuff that you might have skipped out on or might have smartly said no to, like rock climbing and roller skating during marathon season or any type of training cycle. Do it now. It keeps things fresh. It keeps you interested. It helps you cross train. It prevents burnout. And you might find, like I had athletes that incorporated more cycling in their off season, and then we actually used it in their next training cycle, and it really helped them beef up their volume without really impacting their bodies much. So you never know how it's going to benefit you in the future. Examples of this would be trail running, which you're going to hear a lot of because we have our new trail and track season starting on October 28th, which is just like really fun, fresh ways to figure out how to move and have some fun together. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's the fact that you didn't strength train as much as you wanted to. I'm looking at you runners. Build muscle. So, take a body snapshot, make sure you're eating enough protein and build it incrementally. That's fun.
Yeah, that kind of goes into new goals, right? Body composition goals or strength goals are great. And I would like to cordially invite you all back to my classes. I would love to see you.
This is your formal invite.
Here you are. So number 5 is to lean into social recovery. We did a great episode about all of the benefits of social recovery, and I'll link that in the show notes. This is the time to reconnect with your family and friends and say yes to all those things that you smartly said no to. That was a great way to frame that. Marathon training is so time consuming, so we know that you said no to some dinners or some hangs or some brunches so that you could prioritize your running, and that was great for your build up, and now you get to pay all those friends and family back with a little bit of quality time. So this is the time to do that. This is also a great time to explore the run clubs. We've been talking a lot about the Chicago run club scene is booming right now. There's no shortage of runs to do, but it's physically impossible to do them all and maintain your training cycle with a good structured training. But this is a great time to go on that coffee run or that donut run, to join a run club and make some new friends. My asterisk on that, I'm looking at you, marathoners. Take reverse taper very seriously. So it took you 3 weeks to get your fitness to settle in to be able to race at a full potential. We do not want to add in speed work for at least 3 weeks. So if you're going to join in on a run or join a friend for a run, please, 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 sweet baby Jesus, keep it aerobic and easy, or even run walk. Don't jump in on a speed run or a tempo run or something exceedingly intense. We want to give it some time to ease in. Like even our first week of trail and track is going to be very much an ease in effort because we just can't stress enough. We don't want you running hard for 2 to 4 weeks. Easy AF, people. This is the time to dial it in.
Next up is one of my favorites, which is to volunteer or give back. Real talk. When we trained for our first, I used to, getting into our endurance lives, I volunteered, I don't know, maybe once a week. Like, I really enjoy it. I think it's fun. It absolutely takes effort, but it always fills my cup, especially being in a big city. Like, I feel like so many opportunities. And then we got to endurance training, and I didn't have enough time. It was something that never, ever sat well with me. I felt very selfish, and rightfully so on some level, because I was chasing something hard, but it felt very imbalanced. And at the end of the day, chasing goals, it does make us go me a lot. It does. And I think that it takes a very smart person, a very self-aware person to realize that, and that you got to have a little bit more balance, as maybe in season, but definitely off of season, to make sure that we're giving back some of the good that has been given to us, right? A lot of people help us achieve our goals, and so by flipping it when our volumes are lower, we help rebalance the scales. So, being able to volunteer at a race, maybe, right? All of those people that handed you those cups of Gatorade that helped in the corrals, give back and volunteer on the flip side. It's also a great way to stay connected if you do race-specific volunteerism. Stay connected to the community and maybe get inspired and see pretty amazing things. And it doesn't cost money, it just costs your time, right? You can also, of course, join the Edge community chat, right? So it's edgeathlete.me/service, and it's a way for us to kind of bubble up opportunities. I'm always going to talk about pet therapy because we have 3 ridiculously cute dogs that I would love to share with the world, and we go there every other week and just make people's entire days, weeks, whatever, by minutes of effort. So there's always a way to get involved, and it's amazing also who you're going to meet at those, and you just never know the kind of ripple effect that it's going to have.
Yeah, I can vouch for this. I think coming off of my own sort of post-race blues from not being able to race the World Championship, I just volunteered at the Chicago Marathon start line. And
what did you do?
I was working with the athletes with disabilities, getting them staged
for
cool. corral and then moving gear. It was amazing because this is not my first time doing it, but when I'm not racing this race, I always like to jump in and do it because the energy is just so good. Like, you can't be wallowing in your own self-pity and helping people have their best experience at the same time. And so, your goal during that time period is just to make sure that every racer has a wonderful, easy experience. And, you take all of that good energy and good vibes with you. So definitely recommend it.
I love that.
All right, that kind of moves us into reflecting on your own journey. So we've done episodes about journaling in the past, but this is a great time to journal and write it all down. This is really the time where race reports come in handy, because what we remember about our experience 5 minutes after the marathon versus 5 days after the marathon is pretty different. And, I actually like having sort of the snapshot of that initial, you finished the race, how are you feeling, how did it go? But know that 5 hours later and 5 days later, your perspective is going to change on that. So sometimes we get more negative as we think about it and draw on the things that didn't go well. And sometimes we get more positive, depending on your perspective. So write it all down. Really reflect on your training cycle, and it's so much more than just the one event in that one day. Really, you've done 16 or 18 weeks of work, so you've dedicated months to this process. Take it all in. You want to know what was helpful, what didn't work, and if you ever were going to do an event like this again, this is a great opportunity to have something tangible that you can look back on to say, okay, my biggest issue in Chicago was nutrition, as an example.
Yeah,
right?
let's work
now
on that.
Look at that and set those mini goals to be able to fix that for the future.
I think that initially when people finish, especially when it's a harder race, like this year was harder. It's harder as coaches to watch people struggle more too, because it was definitely warmer. Yeah. Not as warm as it could be, but it still wasn't 40 degrees. Initially, they're going to have that reaction of being negative maybe and feeling like things are happening to them, right? Also, let's be real. You're low on energy. You're definitely low on carbs. You're definitely low on electrolytes. Think about what you're like when you're hangry. It's like that, but amplified. That's how you end your race, right? So everything is like, ugh. But as they move away from that, they are really able to start to get some fuel. I'm always like, give us some sugar.
Yep.
Do you want a Coke?
Yeah.
Do you want some Swedish fish? But
they start to fancy cheer zone.
Yeah, we handed that out. But people, they perk up. They start to kind of get their wits about them, and then they get perspective, and it does become a lot more ownership of what maybe they could have done differently, which inevitably gives them more power over how they're going to improve. And it really is. It's cool to see that evolution, right? Mm-hmm. And as it's happening, just knowing when you are just reeling in the first 30 minutes after finishing, especially if it went poorly, it is gonna settle. That definitely helps.
And I think writing it down can help you sort of put it out in the world and not just spin about it in your mind. So if you find that you're really dwelling on certain parts of the race or certain experiences that you had within the race, write it down, either for yourself or for your coach or, for the world on a blog or whatever you want to do. But offloading it from your mind, like similar to you're making a list, right? This can really help you see it and process it in a little bit faster time than just swirling in your head.
Yeah. All right, next is planning a non-running related activity. You can take a mental break from running altogether, especially if it truly doesn't sound good, or if you're injured, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have to do that anyway. So planning a vacation, trying a new hobby, attend events you wouldn't normally get to go to, during training or in like peak season. Think about what those are, and then planning it gives you something to look forward to, right? That's kind of the whole point. I recently asked my athletes kind of what they were going to do in their lower season, and I had one of my athletes tell me that she was going to read books that had been on her list. It's like she had this to-do list of what to read, but she hadn't found time to do it. I'm like, okay, well, what's first? What's on the list? Because one, I kind of want to know. And then I ended up reading the first book that she wanted to read with her, and it was super fun. And so now I'm actually, shocking to no one, I'm doing that I'm like peppering my athletes. I think I'm like 3 or 4 in. But it was a really nice way to do something completely different and also still share it and feel connected. Yeah.
I love that. Also, you have another suggestion?
Oh, yeah. I am crafty. Brian calls them arts and crafts. Did you know that in my house?
No.
But it is kind of funny.
It's kind of funny.
It is.
Wow.
But I mean, I don't keep them if they're not cute. No, I started doing paint by number because I got fed an ad. Then I went and I was like, oh, this is a cool small business. I did want it. It took me way too long. So I have a much larger one, but I don't want to start it yet because this is still our heavy season. So I need us to have a little bit of a lull to have more time. But it was so cool. I love it when non-running related activities involve like hand to eye, like learning guitar or knitting or anything that involves it hand to eye actually has been shown to calm us more than like sitting and watching TV. So, if you can work that in as your non-running related activity, even better.
Yeah. Take a magic class. Maybe.
Oh!
Because sleight of hand, right?
There you go.
What's better than
Sounds
making
like
things
experience.
disappear?
Like my crafts.
I'll talk to Brian. That's amazing.
Whoops! That painting went away.
I don't know where it went.
I don't know where your palm art went, Robyn.
Will we have palm art this holiday season?
Absolutely. Okay. Do you know that... Very much off topic, but many holidays ago, we knew we were going to do palm art for a craft night, which we make, and people can take these ornaments with them, or we bring them into the nursing home. And classic non-communication between Brian and I, who also somehow found 5 pounds of palms for the price of 2, and we both ordered them. So we still probably have 10 pounds. Do you know how much?
Do you know the quantity of palms? 10 pounds of palms, because they weigh literally nothing.
But they're pretty big bags. So we're absolutely doing palm art until 2050.
Yeah. Stay tuned for that, everybody. That's hilarious. All right, well, back on track here. Our final tip is to listen to your body and your mind. If you're feeling unmotivated or down, it's totally okay to take that break from running. And as we said, you absolutely should in your reverse taper period. But if you find that that's not exactly what you want to go back to, then find something else. Maybe it is cycling. Gosh, isn't this how so many of our athletes become triathletes?
Absolutely. It is this
swimming,
time of year.
Yep, swimming, cycling.
It's Biketober.
Yeah. But maybe maybe, again, you start to lift more, or you channel that energy into becoming a little more mobile, so yoga or Pilates or something like that. Just find something, but listen to your body and your mind, so you don't have to do what you've always done. And I think that's a trap that people kind of fall into. Well, oh, my off season always looks like this. Well, it doesn't have to. Really what we should be doing, regardless of the activity, is focusing on mental health and self-care and relaxation. This is your reset. I think this is really interesting because after our big event, I think that we've shifted the concept of off-season, right? I think like a decade ago was kind of like
stop
November, December, and part of January we do nothing, right? When the truth is off-season is actually like you have this short reset and then you focus on base building or foundation, and then you go into your actual training. So it's not a full stop. It's just taking care of yourself, resetting so that you're motivated to come back. So that time away is helpful for a lot of people.
We actually, when we first started doing Edge, we saw that, and it was a problem because people would, pause their memberships or not come in as much, and then they would try to restart in January, and they were just completely unhealthy, if I'm going to be honest. They had probably lost muscle, put on weight, they weren't moving as well, they certainly weren't doing as much cardio, which you don't have to do, but they literally just did nothing. So we also didn't have as much training. We didn't, we were half the size that we are now space-wise. What we've seen is this, like you said, shift in the fall where people, instead of doing 1 to 2 classes a week, they'll then come in for 2 to 3. And base building is pretty cool because you have more time, so you can do things like lift more or maybe lift heavier. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my, I feel so much better getting out of bed, right? Everyday life feels better, and then those habits and that mobility and that muscle mass then carry into whatever they do next. And that is really cool. I know we saw a huge shift last year in the fall. We were like, what is happening? And it was exciting. We had just moved to the new annex, but it was like kind of gangbusters. And so we are very much looking forward to that repeating.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's no set number of days that you have to have off or not have off, right? Like it's not like at day 14 you should be ready to rock again. Sometimes our brains just need a little extra time. So do be gentle with yourself, but don't stop like living life completely.
Don't get up off the couch.
Get up off the couch. Yeah, exactly. All right, final thoughts, post-race blues.
No, but if anybody wants to do paint by numbers with me, let me know because it's pretty big.
Well, that's great. So you have Palm Crafts coming up and Paint by Numbers here at Edge, as well as overcoming those post-race blues. If anybody wants to share their race reports with us, we love to see them, so tag us in your posts.
Yeah, we love it.
And
till next time.
That's it.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Mend. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.